Hello, everyone. Welcome at the PAM Blockchain Conference. I'm Lisa, Senior Business Analyst at the PAM Systems and crypto enthusiast. Today, we are going to talk about healthcare, tokens, blockchain, Web 3.0, and how it could help people from all over the world access good healthcare diagnostics information and even earn money for having done medical diagnostics, engage in your personal data, of course. Let me introduce our first guest, Tom Petersell. He is an innovator, entrepreneur, and also enthusiast who left his successful career at IBM Corporation in order to start his own project in healthcare. This project is called Easy Labs. Easy Labs Web 2 motto was patient-friendly reports drive better engagement. And now, after upgrade to Web 3, its motto is even more heartbreaking. It's getting paid to get healthy. Can you imagine it? So, welcome, Tom. Tom, what is Easy Labs about? I know there was a personal story which made you think of a project like that.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm delighted to be here. Very excited, and good morning from Toronto, good afternoon in Europe, and good evening in Asia. I spoke to my team and we're thinking about why is it important for us to be at a conference like this? What's the value here? And the reason for me was clear. And it actually started a number of years ago where I was asked to come on board to a number of clinics in the US, in Texas, with a good friend of mine that said, we need a better way to communicate information to patients. Come on board, take a pause from your IBM career, come on board and develop better lab reports for me. I did both IBM and that project at the same time. And what we built was a simple solution that provided patients with better lab reports. So to briefly explain what the data means. It was very simple, it was very basic, but we got incredible feedback from doctors and patients. As basic as it was, everybody loved what it meant, loved what it said, and loved the idea of improving patient engagement and improving patient literacy. Now, fast forward a few years, we have blockchain, Web3, tokenomics that can promote advances in healthcare that society failed to generate using wearables and using AI and using machine learning. In fact, we actually see a decline in life expectancy and quality of life as early as 2014. I can pull up a slide that demonstrates what we've experienced over the last few years. And the question is really, why is life expectancy dropping? Not just recently because of COVID, but as you can see here, as early as 6 years ago, despite all the incredible technologies we have, despite the wearables that can track our health on a regular basis, despite AI and ML helping with diagnostics. So if you look at it closely, the data is fairly clear. It's people's lack of motivation to engage with health information, to address the health concerns. It's almost like the reliance on technology allows people to relax, sit back, and do even less about managing their own health. And if we can leverage Web3, specifically tokenomics and incentive mechanisms in order to encourage engagement, in order to motivate people to engage, in order to incentivize them, even financially, to engage with their health so they can get healthier and, of course, for the system, save billions and billions of dollars, I think we have one of the best use cases for Web3, for blockchain, for tokenomics that I've ever seen. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, it sounds like a great mission. Motivate people to be healthy. If they don't want to, let's pay them and engage, make them be healthy. Sounds great. So yes, we are really influencing the whole nation, the whole world. And where do you start? How did it appear?
Well, and by the way, it's not just life expectancy that we're trying to aim at. We're trying to aim at healthy life expectancy, which is the number of years that can sustain healthy living. You know, living with chronic disease for 20 years is not the same as living chronic disease free for 20 years. Your burden on the healthcare system, the cost, the quality of life is severely diminished. So the bigger goal is not just life expectancy, but it's your quality of life. And I mean, we're not even sure where to start, but if you look at the data that we're producing, the data that we can help you engage with, understand, and take action on, it's vast. It's your laboratory results. It is medical imaging. It is your prescriptions and the medications you've been taking over the recent years. It is the wearables you have, both RPM, remote patient monitoring offered by your physician, and your Fitbit and Oura Ring and other devices that track your health. It is the apps we're using, tracking our diets, tracking our anxiety through managing, for example, how we meditate. And for females, for women, tracking their monthly cycle. We have on average 17 streams of health data, each one of which can give us a little bit of insight into our health. But the key is really bringing it all together. And I'll take a step back and ask, where do we start? This is a monumental effort. This is a massive shift from how we manage healthcare today to how healthcare can be managed in the future. And a good place to start, which is what we've selected, are lab results. Almost everybody has recent laboratory results, which represent simple numbers indicating a wealth of data from which we can generate significant insights. So we've recruited a team of doctors, physicians, and patient communication PhDs. And we've designed content to responsibly help users understand the meaning of their lab data. We're not talking about diagnosing you initially or being prescriptive, telling you exactly what medications to take or exactly what to do. We're really focusing on helping you understand the current results, to recognize the trends, move away from abnormal and toward the normal. And the questions are, can we defer disease by a few years? Can we, again, move you from abnormal towards optimal health? Can we help you understand the range of what's normal for you? Because what's normal for you may not be normal for me. Your baseline may be different from my baseline, both based on our style of living and where we are and our background and our genetics. And yet, all that being said, we're still comparing your numbers to somebody else across the world who's very different, but has some basic parameters that match yours, like gender and age. So can we do better? And the answer is, for most people, most of the time, absolutely. And we're starting with labs, but again, we're going to quickly bolt on wearables and additional data that most users can generate.
Tom, as far as I know, this solution is open for everyone, and even our guests at conference could access your website, right? And try or enter some data and get very beautiful report. Could we maybe show the website and explain how it all works? Because maybe people think that it's like future and right now nothing is ready, but I just want you to explain that it's already in work.
Yeah,
everyone is free to try it.
Look, consider that when you bring the idea to people from the healthcare industry, kind of a patient-managed healthcare platform that allows users to gather their data, to understand the data, and through tokenomics, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, even monetize the data. And if you spend enough time with these doctors, with these practitioners, they understand what we're talking about. But then they say, yeah, that's coming, maybe 5 to 10 years from now. And we believe that perfection is the enemy of progress. Where can we bring value today? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to do everything, but what can we do today? And that's where I can show you our MVP. As imperfect as it may be, as a small bootstrap startup, we already can offer something that doesn't exist anywhere else. And through our landing page, you can see fairly easily, a person can either take an image of their labs if they're working through one of our laboratories where we already have an API and we have integration. They can click on a link. But assuming they've just heard about our platform right here, right now, and they want to play around with it, you can join or log on to our landing page. You can enter your gender, and you can get started literally within a few seconds. I know we'll talk about privacy and security in a few minutes, but if you notice, there is no field on our platform that requires a registration, requires your name, requires your phone number or email address. There is no need for us to know any of this about you in order for us to help you understand your health information. So that's a part of the value proposition. Your age, your gender, maybe a couple of other parameters that you believe are valuable for us to know. Agree to the terms and conditions. We're not prescriptive, we're not diagnostic, we're educational only, and you can get started. Immediately, you would get a tokenized ID, so you can come back. Still, no registration, no need to provide any of your confidential information, but nonetheless, providing you with a reference number that allows you to come back and continue building your data profile. And this is the manual entry option if you don't have the luxury of working with one of our providers or having an image you can scan. And this should come right up. I can try that again. You gotta love live demos. There you go, this works. Again, well, maybe not. Try this again. But yeah, it would, there you go. Within a few seconds, should allow us to see the platform. There you go. I'm not sure why that took a few seconds. If you have any of your lab results, and you can just look at the numbers and copy them into the system, and just for simple example on WBC, which is something that most people would have in their regular yearly health check, or almost any test you'll take, you would enter the number manually and you would generate a report. So this is just an MVP, just a demonstration to point to the fact that you have data today. Almost everybody that may be watching us has recent data that looks like a number. It is cryptic. It doesn't really mean anything. And you'd be relying on your physician to explain it to you if there is something wrong. But if you're looking to understand where the optimal ranges are, if you're looking to understand how to improve your health before it becomes abnormal, you have two options today. You can try to Google it up and do your own research, or you can pay out of pocket to a naturopathic doctor, to a consultant, to a dietitian, so they can help you understand and optimize your health. We do that for you automatically, anonymously, and for free. And this is one example of how a WBC of 10.1 is not just a number, but it's a wealth of information that can help you manage your health, understand your health, and prepare for that conversation with the physician, both immediately if you want to speak to them, but also in the future as disease progresses and you actually have to engage with the healthcare system. So this is a great example.
Yeah, it's really great. And if I enter more than one parameter, I mean, if I enter hemoglobin, I don't know, some other parameters, I will get even more data, and everyone is free to try this solution. Yes, it's MVP, but it's already great. It's for free. No registration is required. You just enter your recent lab data and see if it's good or not good. By the way, and who is analyzing my data? Is there some doctor in the team, or is it just artificial intellect?
So we started with AI and ML, and we looked at models and we looked at companies that already do that. They use AI, they use ML to generate decision support, they call it, because you can't quite provide interpretations. There are a lot of barriers, both from regulatory requirements and really what AI can do. If you just look at Watson, I spent 18 years at IBM, and Watson may be the best AI for healthcare. And due to lack of connectivity and interoperability, and from a regulatory perspective, lack of accountability, Watson was shut down. Watson for Health was shut down and sold for parts in, I believe, April of 2021. So, you know, you come to the conclusion that we don't necessarily need fancy AI and ML right off the bat to help people like you and me understand our cholesterol and our glucose and our, triglycerides and how they interact, and maybe uncover some patterns, and how your sleep correlates to the particular medication you're taking, correlates to the exercise you've done that day. And what can we tell you in order to bring attention to some of the things you do wrong, and also bring attention to some of the things you do right, you know, to encourage you and motivate you and incentivize you to do more of that. And neither ML or AI are required for that very low bar, because the bar today is exceptionally low. Do you know what your cholesterol numbers are? Do you know what your cortisol numbers are? Do you know what your sleep patterns have been over the last month? Most people have no idea.
Yeah, of course, I'm doing healthcare diagnostics from time to time, but I don't remember the numbers. I have to go back to Google folder and check recent results. Of course, I don't remember my numbers. If they are average, I'm fine with them. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's the case for most people. And almost nobody knows how those correlate to some of these other data streams we generate. So you can have your labs, you can have your exercise, you can have your sleep data, you can have your monthly cycle, all being tracked in various apps that can only provide so much information. It can only be so interesting, which leads to people abandoning the use of these devices. So they wear their Fitbit for a few weeks, for a few months, and they abandon it just because it doesn't teach you everything you want to know about your health. And the reason it doesn't do that is because it's siloed and it doesn't come together with the rest of your data. Just to quickly pull it back to some of the questions you asked about AI and ML, there are incredible use cases for both. And it's not going to be long before we can leverage those. And I can give you two examples. So recognizing these patterns, once you bring sufficient amount of data from various places, recognizing patterns is something we can apply AI and ML to, and I think that's a reasonable use case that everybody can imagine. But more interestingly, if you have a goal of lowering your cholesterol or improving your sleep or improving your exercise routine or changing your diet, and you can allow the AI on our platform to manipulate you, say, AI, I'm going to give you all the information. I want you to manipulate me, manipulate my psychology so I eat better and sleep better and become healthy. All of a sudden, there is a use case for you literally helping the AI understand you at a level that can help them manipulate your psyche and generate the type of goals that you want to have for your health. So that's another really interesting place where we can leverage AI, but that comes at a later time when we have sufficient data and we have sufficient knowledge of the user still, without necessarily knowing who they are, but having enough information about them to accomplish these goals.
Yeah, it's really great. And of course, I have so many different reports. They are sent to some mails. A lot of reports are just paper. I should have lost them, and I really don't know where they are. And I would be so happy to have everything just in one place, and I'm access easily and see the progress if I'm doing better, or I should pay attention to some of their item. I don't know, maybe I'm running high cholesterol or something. It would be great, but right now, yes, there is no such functionality available for me. But yes, when it comes to artificial intellect and ML and some innovations, some old school people have doubts. And I also have a little doubt inside me. Tom, what about data privacy? I mean, yes, it's fine if I share as much personal information as I can. The system will make better analysis because the more it knows about me, the more it can advise. But I'm afraid that next day, I will get a lot of SMS with some, I don't know, pills advertisement, or some medical care clinics will call me and ask to visit them. So yes, I'm a little bit afraid with my data privacy because it's very intimate, I would say, information about healthcare items. How can you guarantee that this data is private, it belongs just to me, you're not selling it? Any thoughts about it, comments?
This is the first question we get from investors and from people who are working within the industry and recognize the challenges. In fact, privacy and security is really key. It's actually the main obstacle for adoption of existing technologies. If you look at the data that we have about our health, I would say that it is the most secured data that we have. And yet, there are constant data breaches. HIPAA compliant, GDPR, data silos are still being hacked on a regular basis. We're in Canada. Our largest laboratory was hacked 2 years ago, and millions of records leaked out. So number one, data is a challenge to protect. And number two, it must be a top priority for businesses trying to get traction and adoption from businesses and from users. But again, this is another perfect example for what Churchill said. Churchill said, perfection is the enemy of progress. Do we need to guarantee data privacy and security, or do we need to do better than we do today? And we argue that as long as we make progress and we can offer solutions that are more private and more secure than our current Web 2.0 solutions, then we should not see those challenges an obstacle to deployment of these Web3 technologies. And the first way to do that as an early stage, low resources, both from technical and financial perspectives, startup is number one, like I said before, avoid at all costs any PHI. So no phone number, no name, no email address, no patient ID, none of the information that could somehow lead somebody to the user. But beyond that, you can argue that with enough information, you can triangulate the data and eventually find that person given enough data. And in order to mitigate the risk around that fact, we're employing solutions like, for example, Syntegra is a company we're working with and talking to about converting the data to synthetic data prior to that data monetization, prior to that user selling the data and using it outside of the platform. And that means converting your data to a synthetic data set that looks like your data, behaves like your data, generate essentially the same analytics on your data, but is not really your data. So it is valuable for research purposes. It is valuable for Pfizer and Procter & Gamble and that research institution to buy from you, but it will not allow them with any degree of accuracy to trace back and find the user that generated that data. So it's imperfect, but it is already better than our current healthcare systems and how they protect their data.
Yeah, now they say that data is the new oil. I heard this many times, because if you have a lot of data, you can rule the world. You know what's going on. And before we continue our talk, I want just to mention that we have a chat and we have a Q&A tab, and everyone is really welcome to ask us questions. And we will read them in the end and try to answer as much as we can. And also, there is another announcement about conference. All participants at blockchain conference will get NFT. Information about it will be sent to your email later on. So it's really nice benefit from the conference. But now let's continue. And as you have noticed, we have another guest here. I'm not alone with Tom. We have two speakers actually today. And let me introduce you our second guest, Shemirlan Sanduran. He is a blockchain expert, and we invited him to take part in our talk because he knows a lot from the technical point of view. He's an experienced solution architect. He has his own project, an NFT Tron, a blockchain as a service platform. And actually, you will know more about this project tomorrow because Shemirlan has his own talk tomorrow. Please welcome. But today, let's greet Shemirlan, and he will talk with us about Tom's project, because now we will come to technical part, how it's all working, about tokens. Just hello Shemirlan, how are you?
Hi Lisa, hi everyone. I'm doing well, and hope everyone doing well, and welcome to the session.
Yeah, okay, let's continue our talk, and please come to Shemirlan's talk in order to know more about his project in blockchain. We asked Shemirlan to give us advices regarding Tom's project. So Tom, actually, healthcare is pretty fine, yes, and I like this topic. But we're here at Blockchain conference. What's the connection with this idea about healthcare, this mission to save the world, and how it's connected with tokens, Web 3.0, I don't know, NFT? Could you explain more?
Absolutely, and I'm excited to have Sharmilan here because as a Web 2 company pivoting to Web 3, call it Web 5 if you may. The challenge is adopting Web 3 technologies. The challenge is the Web 3 resources. You're looking for an expert with 5 years experience on a chain of technology that's existed for 3 years or maybe 2 years. So how do you do that? And it's been a great challenge, and we'll talk to Sharmilan and talk about how companies like ours can leverage companies like his in order to accomplish some of these feats early on and bring, or basically early adoption of the technology before Amazon and Google and maybe even Facebook start offering Web3 services around healthcare. And the way Web3 factors into this conversation is really through, if you want to really simplify it, it's the ownership of the data. But beyond the ownership of the data, it's incentive mechanisms through specifically the tokenomics that would allow us to create engagement, which is the biggest problem in healthcare right now. And the best example everybody would recognize is medications. People don't take their medication. It costs the healthcare systems around the world tens, maybe even hundreds of billions of dollars a year, depending on who you ask. The best example may be diabetes. In the US, it's pretty horrible. 80% of people who are, 30% of people are pre-diabetic. 30% of the American population, over 100 million people. Now, 80% of them don't know it because they're not engaging with their healthcare information. They're not engaging with the healthcare system. And once they do know it, about 30% of them do nothing about it, and they end up becoming fully diabetic, costing the healthcare system $17,000 per year. So adherence and engagement is a massive issue. And people know it's going to cost them their life, it's going to cost them their health, it's going to cost them, their livelihood and ability to enjoy their family for many more years. So what can we do to incentivize them to engage, to be aware, to become familiar, and do something about their health? And it seems like the lowest common denominator is financial incentives. Now, if we can financially incentivize users to engage, which means to start a journey of bringing some of their data and understanding what it means and be rewarded for that first step. And then understand additionally what would happen if you bring us more data. We can tell you more about your health. You can probably get healthier. You can probably avoid some cost, but we will also reward you for that as well. And what would happen if you share this information with your spouse so your spouse can help you on your health journey? You'll be rewarded for that too. What if you take it to your physician and say, hey, doc, I know I'm not really sick, but I'm moving in the wrong direction. Can we talk about how I can avoid this disease for a few more years? You will be rewarded for that too.
Yeah, Tom, but let's provide some practical information. Okay, you say that the motto of your company is getting paid for having done medical or diagnostics. So I enter some data and I share information with your company about the level of cholesterol in my blood. I don't know how many hours I sleep, etc. How can I get money, or will you give me tokens? So how does it work?
There are two steps so the tokenomics are not just there to get you paid. The main motivation should be you trying to improve your health, you trying to take control over your data. Now, it's a nice bonus to have users get paid for that, but it should not be the primary motivation. Now, imagine you come to our platform and you enter some simple information, you get results, you understand the value, and you bring more and more information so you can selfishly learn about your health and improve your condition and maybe avoid some cost. You are rewarded with tokens in every step of the way. And in your example, you might be interested in biohacking, anti-aging, fertility, women's health, whatever your specific interest is, we have features, functionality, and premium options to provide you perspective about your health from that particular specialist. Now, those are premium features. So those you could either access by paying out of pocket, or you can redeem the tokens you've earned for access and basically redeeming those for advanced features and functionality on the platform. So you're essentially paying for advanced features with tokens you've earned simply for engaging. So that is the first and primary example of the tokenomics. Now, these tokens could arguably be traded and exchanged outside of the system. So if you don't want to necessarily pay $25 for biohacker's interpretation or anti-aging interpretation, which is a premium feature, you could potentially use the tokens you've earned in order to access that feature. But if you don't have enough tokens and you don't want to wait a week or 2 or 3 to earn these tokens, you can find somebody on a Reddit forum that is a user on our platform, an anonymous person that is willing to trade the tokens with you, either give you the tokens or sell you the tokens. That imbues the tokens with value that we don't want to necessarily manage or be a part of, but you can imagine how an ecosystem is going to be generated where these tokens that allow you access to advanced features are worth money. Now, beyond that, you can imagine doctors, you can imagine coaches, you can imagine community leaders advising their users to leverage the platform so they can help them improve their health, especially coaches and physicians ideally as well. But the role is being played by a coach who has a group of people, either friends, either clients, who are managing their health and optimizing their health using our platform. That coach, that leader, that community leader is going to be rewarded with a different class of tokens because they're helping the community, they're helping our company, they're helping themselves. And those tokens will be a class of tokens that represent a small piece of equity in the company through potentially a structure like a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, where a small portion of the company is owned by the community leaders who are leveraging the platform for their own benefit, but are also benefiting the business. If you just imagine that flywheel of people using it because it's helping their health, people using it because it's helping their business as a physician, as a coach, people using it in order to take control of their health information, what naturally happens without us trying to do that at all, it's simply a natural progression of the cycle I described. These users, these people are building what physicians call a longitudinal, patient-augmented, real-world data set about their health. And that data is exceptionally valuable. If you can imagine the $30 billion health data industry today, where your data, my data, Sharmilan's data is being traded, sold, and bought for $30 billion in the US alone, how much of that money have we received? Exactly $0. Now, that is siloed data. That is data from Fitbit, from the lab, from the doctor, from the pharmaceutical company that knows what you're taking. Just imagine bringing all that data together by the user. And what would that data be worth? The estimates are an average of minimum $250 per user per year. So it's not going to make you rich, but it's improving your health. It helps you manage your health and you're getting paid in the process. So that's the end goal. The end goal is for you to engage with this platform, go through this flywheel that helps you understand your health and manage your health, engage with your health information, maybe be a part of a community that has these particular health concerns that you have. You can teach each other, you can learn from each other, you can help each other. And in the process, have the option of having a data set that you can choose to either monetize, you can choose to donate for research, you can even choose to sponsor the treatment of a child somewhere in a developing country where surgery can be done for that $100, $200, or $300 that you've managed to accumulate.
So do I understand it correctly that the more data I share, the more often I take these laboratory reports and enter the results inside the ecosystem, the more points, tokens I get, and those tokens can be spent both on consultation from a physician or doctor or whoever, and I can also spend these points if I want to share my points with my spouse, for example, so that he gets his report. And I'm always inside this ecosystem, right? The more data I share, the more tokens I have, and I can spend it just on diagnostics, some human diagnostics, I mean, not just artificial intellect. And yeah.
That would be correct. And I would say beyond that, and I can give you a really exciting example that just came up 2 days ago. We talked about, well, first again, I'll confirm that, yes, the more data, I wouldn't even call it sharing, but the more data you provide, because we don't necessarily have access to your data, depending on how it's structured. But the more data you use on the platform, the more you're rewarded because you're helping us help you. The more data you bring, the more I can help you manage your health, and the more value it has to the business we're trying to build. So you're being rewarded for anything you do that is beneficial to your health or to our company. Now, a perfect example was, in the context of our talking earlier about adherence to medication. You can't really tell when somebody takes their medication. All we know is that the results are not good. And maybe it's because they didn't take the medication, or maybe it's because the medication doesn't work as supposedly it should have. And we really don't have that information. But for $50, you can buy an RF bottle that tracks when you open it and the weight and have you really taken that medication. Now, who's going to pay for that, let's say $50 or $80 bottle? The user doesn't want to pay for that. The insurance companies don't want to pay for that. The healthcare system doesn't want to pay for that. But what if I told you that if you pay for that bottle as a user, as the patient, but as long as you use it exactly according to the doctor's direction, which means every day, morning and evening, we're going to not only pay for that bottle, so it costs you $0, but we're going to use the data you generated, and we're going to reward you with $20 worth of credit to use for other products and services in our ecosystem. Now we've gotten to a point where we can almost certainly positively impact your health. We can monitor what the user is doing, and we can use the data for research. And most likely, we can save billions and billions of dollars by having people manage their health properly, follow doctor's instructions, take their medications as necessary, and ideally, practice prevention. So imagine that with a glucose monitor or a Fitbit, anything your doctor wishes you would do, they can offer you a device that would cost a lot of money that you would probably not choose to buy or take. But if you were paid for that device and wearing it according to the instructions and generating the data that's valuable to everybody, we have a win-win-win.
Yeah, it's win-win principle. That's true. I get better health, the company gets more personal data, and it's win-win. Yeah. And you mentioned that I'm not just sharing my data, I'm just providing it. And is it right that if I want to sell my health model, I would say it to some company like, I don't know, some pharmacy company, I can do it directly and say that, yes, you can sell my data to some pharmacy company and I'm rewarded for this, right?
That's right. And we can bring
You can just extract my personal name, just my my health model, and I can sell it directly, right?
So that's
on the platform.
Contracts, that's where the smart contracts and minting an NFT of your data and managing everything on the blockchain comes in. And we've selected, we needed to start somewhere, right? And it was really painful to select the particular technology and the particular chain. And one of the reasons this is not being done is because most of these chains are not mature enough. We don't know what will be the best chain for data 6 months from now, never mind 2 or 3 years from now, which is really where we need to aim. So we selected a chain called Stacks. It sits on the Bitcoin, which means it's very secure, and it's got a programmable layer, which means that it's quite affordable. But 2 or 3 months into the project, which is now the Web3 component is about 4 months old, we realized that this is a reasonably new chain and documentation is not widely available. And now we're at a place where we're working with a chain that doesn't necessarily, is not necessarily conducive to the adoption of Web3 technologies. We're challenged with resources, we're challenged again with documentation. And even if that chain is going to be one day the optimal chain, it is probably not the best place to start today. So in speaking to Sharmilan, I expressed some of these challenges, some of these concerns. Where do you find Web3 resources to help you get started? What happens if we spend a year or two working on the wrong chain? And that chain, for whatever reason, is maybe not the optimal chain, but maybe it's just the wrong chain. Do we need to start from scratch? And the answer is
how many people are working in your team right now before Shamarlan gives his comments?
It's 7 people, but it's mostly physicians, a couple of technical people, and one person who's an expert in communicating information to patients, because neither doctors nor AI or ML are experts in how to communicate information and make it easy, simple, and engaging. So we have multiple resources, but not all of them obviously are technical.
Are you the only IT guy?
I'm the CEO, so chief of everything: IT, medicine, business, legal. I attempt to do it all. But we have a CTO that's running a technical team without Web3 expertise, and that's been real challenging. So I'd love Sharmilan to kind of give us some of the examples of what companies like his can offer companies like ours in terms of early adoption and how easy it is to migrate from one solution to another, as market forces make it obvious that one chain, one stack is far better than the alternative.
Sure, yeah. So one of the, as same as what Tom mentioned, so one of the major challenges, whether it's a startup or whether it's a ongoing project or enterprise, when they want to transform from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, it's kind of similar challenges that everyone faces. So one is on the technical side, the technical gaps that they have, or else if they have a technical team, even putting that team into the learning curve. So that will take a bit of time and the effort as well. And if they want to go and hire outside, it is high cost, because the blockchain domain or the technology is growing pretty fast. But on the other side, we don't have that much supply of experts or else developers. That is one of the main reasons why we started on this project called Neutron, which allow businesses like Tom's one to transform from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0 in an easy and efficient manner. So I'm coming from the blockchain solution architect background, and one of the major challenges for me personally is identify for a particular use case, which is the perfect blockchain. So it's usually kind of a nightmare to identify it, because like some use cases or some solutions will be perfectly fit for some use cases, some chains, but not for everything. So when it comes to practical use cases, it will be goes through a lot of questionnaires, understandings with the clients and all. Then you will be fixed with the one blockchain. Why we are doing that is, if we go and select a one wrong chain, then we'll be build it for maybe a year or two. But then when we feel like this is not the correct one, we have to re-architecture everything. So we had to again start everything from scratch, and we'll have some data sitting on that, and we have to again start, and we have to migrate the users from one to one. So it's like a hassle, and it's like kind of a nightmare for the users as well as nightmare for the businesses as well. So that's one of the reasons we went and given it as a solution where you can do it in a blockchain agnostic manner. So we want to ideally, if you ask me, I want to make it blockchain even more decentralized, rather than sticking with a one particular blockchain and one particular chain, and you are putting all the data and things on that. You can bit more explore on different chains. So you can use it as a more agnostic model, and then you can transfer data in between using a cross-chain features that we have. And that will be kind of reduce a lot of an issue, because you can easily transform into that using our SDKs. You don't need to know how Solidity works, or you don't need to know how Ethereum runs or how Stellar works. As long as you know like how to use these simple services and APIs, which every Web 2.0 developer is familiar with, they can directly use that, and they can plug in, they can connect with blockchain, or else it works in more like a no-code platforms as well. So you can directly come and use a no-code platform if you're not an expert. So as Tom mentioned, like you have to start somewhere. So you don't need to wait until everything perfects, and you don't need to wait until you identify the perfect blockchain or identify the perfect structure. If you know that you want blockchain for this particular use case, you can start with a no-code, or else you can start with a platform, and then you can choose whatever the blockchain you want and go ahead. And later, maybe if you identify that is not the perfect one, you have an easy option to switch it rather than going through the hassle.
But what blockchain is better? I just know that, for example, Ethereum is quite an expensive blockchain. If I make a private transaction from one wallet to another, I have to pay extra commission just for this chain. And I really try not to transfer money in this blockchain because it's too expensive. And does business have to pay the same commissions? For example, if Tom's company rewards a user with tokens for sharing these reports, does he have to spend these commissions also inside the chain? Does it work the same for business as for persons?
So every public blockchain that you use, you have to pay for these transaction fees, but it will be depends on what chain that you are using. So exactly as you mentioned, like Ethereum is currently comparing to the chains that we have, Ethereum is going high cost, but it depends on the use case, because for an example, I can take it is from whatever the projects that we have done, tracing an apple from farm to shelf. If you're doing it on Ethereum, maybe say like it costs around $10, but if you're doing that exactly same thing on maybe on Polygon or maybe on Stellar, you can trace like 400,000 apples for a $1. So that is the contrast. But it's for an Apple, it makes too expensive to use Ethereum. But then maybe if you comes and using maybe on a gemstones or a diamond traceabilities, then it makes sense because you can use it on Ethereum, because that amount is not a huge amount comparing to the value of that particular product or particular use case. In Tom's situation, so it's more than the amount of transaction fees that they are paying, but they have to consider a couple of things. One is on the transaction fee and how frequent they are making the transaction, because some chains you have a transaction delay, so once data goes on, so you have to wait until the next block comes. So in healthcare situations, like mostly we will have microtransactions where a lot of transactions will come in and you have to pay for the transactions, but it depends on the chain that you choose, which we can focus on the chain that is more throughput on the transaction per minute or per hour, and the same time it consumes less gas fee. So then you can directly go ahead, and later on maybe a point that you comes like you want to have some features on another blockchain, then maybe you can easily explore on that, and maybe you can give it as option on the user side to decide like which blockchain they want to put their data on. Because if some users, if they're fan of Ethereum, then they can keep their data on Ethereum and they can use it. And if they are fan of Stellar or whatever other blockchains, they can directly go and use it on that. So you can, I mean, rather than the business decides which blockchain their users want to be, I mean, you can give an option to the users, choose whatever the blockchains you want to keep your data, because it's end of the day, their healthcare data and their ownership, so they can decide where they want to keep it on.
Precisely. And I can give you an example. That was brilliant, Sharmila. And I can give you an example, Lisa. We, the chain we started developing on Stacks, we managed to do thousands and thousands of transactions for under $1. So it's very well aligned with the notion of not charging people for engaging with their health information, right? We need to do a lot for the users before such time that we can extract money from the users, right? So the tokenomics factor in once you have a large number of users. The data monetization is going to become possible once we have tens of thousands of users. So how do we sustain ourselves as a company until such time without spending 10 or $20 million of our investors' money to just fund this process? And these newer chains, these newer exciting, maybe layer 2 solutions allow us to do that very, very effectively and evolve together with the ecosystem, right? As solutions become more available specifically for this use case, we can adopt them through Sharmilan's solution dynamically without starting from scratch, which is very painful for a startup.
I know that in order to start getting tokens, I need to create a wallet inside Easy Labs, right? So do I have to choose this particular blockchain? And it means that I create a wallet inside this particular blockchain. For example, I have a Trust Wallet, and it's connected to several chains like blockchain, Ethereum, Solana. I have several accounts inside Trust Wallet. And do I have to create a special new wallet, right, for those tokens? In this new chain, I really haven't heard of it before we start talking. And all my tokens will be spent inside that chain, right?
So initially, it's a lot easier than that. All you need to do is sign in with your wallet. And as soon as you sign in with your wallet, the token that we offer or issue right now gets connected to your wallet ID, and all the transactions would be made in the wallet that you've signed up with. So it's as simple as that. Ideally, in the future, it's going to be multiple wallets and a cross-chain solution. But initially, it's going to be either stacks or a chain that we're going to select with Charmilan's help as the ultimate optimal early phase chain and wallet for this purpose.
And is it similar to when I create a 12 words key, and whenever I forget my number, I enter those 12 words, and the chain shows my balance, etc. Is it similar?
Yeah, I mean, you can hopefully within the next couple of weeks, you're going to be able to log on to our platform with your MetaMask wallet. So one of the most common wallets, if not the most common wallet, and you're just going to see your EasyLab tokens. You're going to be able to exchange those tokens for access to advanced features on the platform. But immediately you get an ability to log in securely without identifying yourself, which is the case in Web 2. You practically identify yourself usually via email. You don't have to do that when you're logging on with a crypto wallet. Your anonymity is completely maintained while providing you with a secure access to the platform. And it evolves from there. You know, hopefully these tokens, these coins are going to be something that you can eventually swap for other tokens, swap for fiat currency. But initially, it's going to be your average wallet connecting to our platform and airdropping tokens for all, like I said, all these behaviors that are conducive to improving your health and helping our business.
Sounds great. Actually, we have just one question in our chat up to now, and I'd like to hear your comments if you agree with this point or not. Our guest asks us, maybe it's better to provide free healthcare or at least lower prices that people won't even consider whether they can afford a consultation, treatment, medication or not. I know that your project was also because some African people can't afford visiting a doctor. And what do you think? Are we doing the right thing, or is it better to find a solution and provide free healthcare to everyone in all countries?
Right.
Do you have any thoughts of it, Tom or Shamirlan, whoever?
I have thoughts. I mean, let's be just correct with our terminology. It's not free healthcare. It's government provided healthcare. We still pay for that healthcare with our taxes, and we pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. In Canada, we have free healthcare. That doesn't mean we don't pay for the healthcare. It simply means that it's covered by the government. And guess what happens? My doctor doesn't have the right incentive mechanisms to help me until I'm really, really sick. My doctor doesn't have time to sit with me and help me optimize my health. My doctor doesn't have time to discuss my diet and my exercise. So can we offer free healthcare? We can't necessarily offer free healthcare, but we can use platforms like ours to subsidize healthcare costs. So like I said earlier, maybe in Canada, US, and Europe, this is not a great example, but imagine somebody in a developing economy, like in Africa somewhere, that produces $3, $4, maybe $5 of data a month. That person can access healthcare services for $5 in a way that they could never do before. So for somebody in a developing economy, yes, this platform can offer free healthcare or facilitate access to very affordable healthcare. In the West, I think we should just aim at improving access, improving affordability, improving security, and promoting prevention. I don't think we should aim for somehow generating free healthcare, because it is one of the most expensive resources we have. And I don't necessarily see a way to have it be offered for free effectively on a global scale. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Actually, we have just 5 minutes left and we need to finish our talking, but we have one more question in Q&A tab. I don't know, I'll read it, and maybe later Tom and Shamirlan, you could just write an answer here in comments. But if you can provide a very quick answer, let's do it. So the question is, how can you prevent people from abusing the token gains? Since it's anonymous, is there a way to not allow people to create multiple accounts and upload data, even fake or reproduce data to farm coins? This question is also relevant to the invite others and get rewarded model. So yes, it's about fake data. How can we check that those are real data and we will reward everyone?
I'll respond quickly. The three
If you
steps.
have a quick response, please.
Yeah, you have trusted data that comes directly from the EMR, directly from the healthcare system via API, via integration. We know that's real data. You have data that comes from wearables and RPM. We don't know for sure that it's your data, but we know it's real data. And we can have AI, we can have ML, look at the data and make sense of it. And we have data that's not trusted data, data from apps, questionnaires, onboarding, a document that you as a user would fill about how you feel, who you are, social determinants, and so on. I think it is up to the buyer of the data to decide if they trust the data or if they don't trust the data. So we're going to tell you what we think about the data you provide. You can use it or not. If you provide fake data, garbage in, garbage out. But if Pfizer looks at your data and analyzes it and says, this doesn't make sense, I only want the trusted data from this user, and here's the money I'm willing to offer for that data, then I don't see a problem with some fake data being in the system. The only person that suffers is the data generator, the user, the provider of the data. So we're not too concerned about that. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be better than the current system.
So this item is in your backlog, of course, and AI can analyze and find those data which is fake. Okay, I want to thank our speakers. I want to thank Tom and Shimerlan and our guests. You still are welcome to write more questions, and our speakers could write you later. And in a few minutes, there is another talk. Please welcome and stay online. Our next talk is about game industry. It will be interesting. So thank you, everyone, and see you in a few minutes.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Sharmilan. And I'd be happy to speak with anybody who is interested in more information.
Thank you, guys. See you.